Alright, how y'all doing? Back once again. Got another review for you. Instead of a book, I have a documentary. Here it goes. All the Streets Are Silent. The Convergence of Hip Hop and Skateboarding, 1987 to 1997. I was just up in the library and looking for new stuff to see, because you never know. I can't remember which library, but yeah, I saw this and I was like, oh, okay, that's a really new angle. No one has ever looked at, combination of skateboarding and rap, hip hop culture before, because I was like, well, hey, they're both subcultures and stuff. So, yeah, that would be a great juxtaposition. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's plenty of there's 50,000 documentaries about rap out there. And there's a couple of documentaries about skating, and there are some movies. Of course, there are tons of movies that rap is the theme or something. They've been out there for like 40 years now. And there actually are some skater movies out there with skating as a theme. So, it's kind of in the mainstream, but combining the two together, you know what I'm saying? That's never been done before. So, yeah, it caught my eye. So I was like, well, hey, man, I gotta go look at this. You know what I'm saying? Ah, so I was kind of excited, but I have to be honest with you, I was a little bit disappointed. You know what I'm saying? You think that you're gonna get this synergy together, but just kind of disappointed me. But hey, that's just my opinion. I'm just here just to review it, give you a summary, give you kind of critique, break it down, analyze it, deconstruct it, analyze it, bring it back, reconstruct it. All right, so let me just get to it. You know what I'm saying? This came out quite recently in 2021, so about 3 years ago. The guy who directed it, heard him named Jeremy Elcom. He was like the director, producer, and editor. So that lets me know that it was a independent thing. But he did a good job. A lot of footage, from people's portable video tape, plus modern day interviews and stuff. Good juxtaposition. Even though it's independent, it was real good, real high quality. But nowadays everyone can do a high quality, something independent. You know what I'm saying? So, well, basically, like I said, the movie, it basically, parallels the rise of like skateboarders' popularity with the mainstreaming of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So basically, it's basically two stories going on here. And I thought it would be one, but it's actually two. Basically, like some of the convergences, right? Basically, there was a club named Club Mars in New York. All this takes place in New York. It's New York skateboarding and of course rap. Basically, the mecca is New York. Even though you have noise other places, New York is the main one. But yeah, so basically, in New York in 1989, there was a club called Club Mars, and basically it was a place, it was a cool spot in this place where rap and skateboarders, both hang out. I have a feeling that everyone went there, but apparently this was like the main place, one of the main places where they both converged at. You know what I'm saying? So that's one point that brought them together. Then it has, basically it's talking about like the eventual mainstreaming of like skater culture, and its rise to big business the same way eventually rap was co-opted by big business. You know what I'm saying? Let me get some of the stuff. Basically kind of emphasizes, but the two main points for the parallel of these two things is like basically like rap's golden age. Rap's golden age basically is most experts say it from 1988 to 1992. You know what I'm saying? That's rap's golden age. You know, before it evolved to gangster rap, right? But then at the same time, you know, skating was around and whatnot, but then they pretty much emphasized skating's rise to notoriety with the success in the mid 90s, about 95, with the movie called Kids, right? That was a very man, that was a very successful. It was that most people might not know it. Some people do. I know because I was, you know, a kid back then. I was a teenager when it came out. You know, I just graduated from high school. Basically, it's about a bunch of teenagers who were skaters, and then basically a day in the summertime. You know, when most kids who don't have a job, they're just basically wandering around the city, and that's what basically it shows them and stuff. But this movie was known more for transgression because it shows them getting into fights, shows them doing drugs, shows them having sex. So that was the appeal to it, because a lot of people, they actually mistakenly thought that this was a documentary, because the guy, Larry Clark, he shot in a very grainy way. So a lot of people mistakenly thought that it was a documentary. You know, people was like, oh my God, children having sex and fighting and doing drugs and stuff. You know, but nope, it was a fiction movie. It was written by Harmony Korine, a very famous experimental independent movie. This was like his first movie gig as a writer. He actually hung with those kids. He was also a teenager. He was in NYU film school at the time, stuff. And him and Larry Clark, they got together. He wrote the script, and boom, and he purposely, Larry Clark, he was an expert at filming teenage subcultures. He, you know, his first book was like Tulsa, and that was basically a bunch of kids who did drugs. He did a lot of other, because he was a photographer. He wasn't a movie maker. He was a photographer, and he has a photographic book, and he has tons of photographic books of that teenage subcultures and stuff. But this was like his first film. You know, he's never done a documentary. He also did a movie called Bully, about this bully down in Florida who basically got killed because his people stood up to him and stuff. So he that's his thing, his specialty, teenage subcultures and stuff with aggressive kids. And he actually embedded himself in the skateboarding culture, got to know some, and then he used a lot of them as actors in the film Kids and stuff. So that blew up. And so the authenticity, because he actually let them drink and do drugs. He let little 10, 11, 12-year-old kids smoke marijuana. So with that authenticity, people thought it was a documentary, but no, it was actually fiction. And basically it blew up from that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, those two kind of things parallel and stuff, you know, because rap at the time, it was ascending. You know what I'm saying? It was already known. It was already established and stuff. You know, it had been 10 years since the Sugar Hill Gang and their thing, but rap was now starting to go more mainstream and start to make more money. So, and skateboard had been around in some form or another, but it was very low. But then it was kind of slowly coming up during the golden age of rap and stuff. It was more known and stuff. It kind of was bubbling up. But then once Kids came, it broke out. That's kind of the story, but you know, I'm kind of avoiding because I wanted, this movie tries to make positive, but I just can't really, I'm really not a fan of it. Basically, you know, the film totally ignores the skaters who became rappers. There was various rappers. Now there's more skaters who become rappers, but there's been a couple of skater rap groups, people who started skating, they bring none of them up. They don't bring the old ones up. They don't bring the new ones up. Which was like really disappointing. I mean, like you're talking about the convergence, so you would think they would feature skaters who became rappers. Then also, a couple of rappers, they have co-opted the skater culture for their videos and stuff. Not a lot, but they have. They're kind of mentioned, but they're mentioned in passing. You would think they would emphasize that more. So that was like a big hole there. There are these two like rappers who are seen skating and stuff and taking some of the culture, and skaters who become rappers and stuff. And that actual combination was very disappointing. So that was like one of the big major hole. The film, it talks about convergence but doesn't mention the actual examples, the blending of rap and skateboarding. They try to offer in later on, they talk about how skateboard, like a lot of skateboarders, now you see it all the time on the internet, but back then they would go out with the cameras, right, and would record the stuff edited of them skating in the city of New York and anywhere, and then they would edit together and sell those tapes, right? Those videotapes, right? VHS and stuff. I know this is old, before internet, but they would talk about how they would use as a soundtrack rappers, right? Well, everyone at that time was using rap for soundtracks, for everything, for movies, TVs, whatever. So that's really not important. I don't know. They tried to make that seem like a convergence, but it really wasn't. They tried to talk about how like rappers use skater visuals, which yes did happen, but they didn't really. But at the same time, they didn't go into it. But then also at the same time, a lot of genres, like a lot of punk pop, like acts in the '90s and 2000s. We use skateboarders in their videos and skate culture and stuff. A lot of genres, like the pop punk thing, that was big. They used skate culture out the asshole. You know what I'm saying? So they really didn't emphasize how it was unique to them. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they didn't really kind of make this unique comparison. I mean, they showed one by them showing, these two subcultures and comparing them. They were showing them at different stages. You know what I'm saying? Like skateboarding was just emerging. It had always been around. People knew about it and da da da. But it was like kind of like kid cousin. It really hadn't gone mainstream yet. At the same time, the golden age, rap was already mainstream, but it was now ascending to like more importance, more acceptance. It really hadn't made a lot of money yet and stuff. Everything was like kind of experimental with it, with rap and stuff. It really hadn't made a lot of money yet. There really wasn't a lot of consistent acts yet, but that was like right around the corner where you have like acts that would have longevity. You would have more acts that would like go mainstream, like a lot of rappers. You saw fewer movies, but then you saw rappers actually have movie careers or get TV shows and get clothing lines and shoe deals and blah blah blah. They really crossed over in the 90s. You know what I'm saying? Whereas people really didn't. People knew about skaters, but they didn't know about skate culture. That was still not. So they were at two different, rap was up here and skate was right here. So to try to say, and they really hadn't crossed over into each other yet. So it was kind of a weird juxtaposition of them. So that kind of really did not go. I don't know. See, I kind of have to concentrate on the movie Kids. I'm gonna do a review on Kids. Because that was Even, I mean, like I had just graduated from high school. That was the summer I graduated from high school. I was a kid. I watched it for the first time when I was a freshman up in my freshman dorm with like homies, up in his dorm room and stuff, and it blew me away because it was so gritty and stuff. Because it really showed street culture, but instead of it being sanitized, it was like raw. I think that's the reason why people mistook this fictional film for a documentary. But it was something very different. How can I say? That film, I mean, that film, that's a review in itself, but it just, how can I say? It came on transgressively by showing all the violence, by showing the sex, by showing the drugs and stuff. It kind of got a kind of not outlaw, but real negative kind of thing. Whereas rap at the time was trying to, it was simultaneously sanitizing itself while being co-opted, because basically you had like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, his show was on at the time, and he was like the happy sanitized rap, and you didn't really have the whole, there were gangster rap was around, but it was not the only thing. Now that's all talks about, gangster rap, gangster rap, gangster rap, gangster rap. But back then it was very more varied. You had feminist rappers, you had hippie rappers, you had intellectual rappers, you had fight the power rappers like Public Enemy. So it was still varied. It was not as, it wasn't considered dangerous. It hadn't been stereotyped to gangster rap yet. You did have some controversy with NWA, but that kind of died down. You had, even with that, you had battles with Ice-T, because Ice-T, like NWA just said it and just seemed kind of transgressive, but Ice-T, he had more of a thing like, don't do this. Oh, you want to be a gangster? Well, this happens, your place gets raided, you end up in jail, you end up dead, right? So it was, even with gangster rap, there was a balance and stuff, right? So it was kind of struggling. So it kind of had this happy way, but then kind of varied way. So it was kind of like going through its teenage years, whereas skateboarding, it was still kind of like a baby zygote and stuff. So, and like I said, I've seen this story before. You know what I'm saying? Like kids, it's a separate story, and I've seen documentaries on skateboarding. But yeah, I've seen tons of stuff on rap, and it was different. Like there was this one thing where for some reason they went to this radio station with Stretch Armstrong and Bobbito Garcia, which was a really big radio show, which introduced a lot of underground rappers in the early 90s, right? And there's already a documentary out there and stuff. I probably need to go ahead and rewatch that and do that. But instead of showing like any crossover, they suddenly did a segment just on that. Well, how did that cross over to skateboard? It didn't. You know what I'm saying? It's like, wait a minute, that was another film, another story, and it didn't cross over. You know what I'm saying? And then also, they did a thing where they talked about like the certain places where like a couple stores, like Zoo York was like a big skater shop where a lot of the skaters hung out at and stuff. You know, they showed footage of them hanging. There was another one, I can't remember. Okay. That's it. Were they rapping at the store? Did rappers come and visit the thing? Only thing they talked about was like Mars, you know, where skateboards and rappers hung out. But that was only talked about, you know, for at the beginning. They weren't emphasized that. And then even that, they made that into another, that was like another documentary. A lot of things were going on in this thing that just didn't really connect up totally. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, this movie, its narrative was very much all over the place, And because I like all these independent documentaries and documentaries period, I've been watching a whole lot of stuff. Like I said, I've seen behind the scenes stuff with kids. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a documentary out, We Were Once Kids, talking about the people who were the extras who didn't become big, you know, because like Chloe Sevigny and what's her name? Rachel Dawson, another guy he won, I can't remember his name, Jason Hawkins, I believe. He got a career and stuff. Basically, Larry Clark, he went on, and Carmen Corrin, basically a handful of them went on to mainstream success and careers in film and directing, but most of the people got left that were actual skaters who were in the thing as played themselves and actually had speaking roles or were extras and stuff. A lot of them just went on with their life. Nothing really happened. I've seen that documentary, right? And but this one, it talks about that, but I don't know. The dude, he talked about a whole bunch of different things and stuff. Like at the end, he talked about how like now you have a whole bunch of people with like Zoo York clothes on and don't know that's a skater park. That's a skater, you know, that's one of the original skate shops and stuff. And he talked about how they were bought out for like, I think a couple $100 million, and the other store was bought out for like $2 million. And different people had clothing lines and skateboard stuff, and they sold out and this and that. And you know, he did like a summary of how they kind of, you know, became big business and stuff, which is good. But it was like that was done as a scroll, as a snarky remark, and then a scroll. That could have been the whole segment right there, and that could have been juxtaposed with how rap all of a sudden got a lot of money. You know, just like skateboarding eventually got money, rap got a lot of money. And you know, if they would have went back to before rap got big and would have been like, hey, back in 1979, no one kind of really knew about rap, but then it became big in 79 or got really big once it crossed over with like, cause like another time, a lot of people talk about Run DMC in 1983 when they came out with their thing, how they were the first rap group to actually make a whole lot of money. They were the first ones to like go platinum. They could have compared the early 90s and kids to 1983 with Run DMC. You know, aesthetically it looked good. He had a lot of points that were really good, but the juxtaposition, the way it was combined and told was really bad. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, if you want to passively watch something, this is good. But then if you're like a thinking person like me, the whole structure of the thing is just whack. You know what I'm saying? I really don't think he actually showed, you know, something that, you know, he talks about it converging, but when you look at it, it didn't converge, it paralleled, and then it really wasn't even a close parallel. It was in the area, but it was in the area more just because New York had a skating scene and the rap scene is pretty much in New York. That was it. That was the main thing. And if rap had been somewhere else, then you wouldn't be talking about skater and you wouldn't be able to connect them up. You know what I'm saying? So it was more of a parallel, but not even a close parallel. So I really don't think he did a good job with that. Yeah. All right, let me just, because I'm kind of rambling here, so let me kind of sum it up. In my opinion, these are two separate films, which I've seen already. You know, it is good and highlight connections because these were two subcultures. However, other than them both being subcultures, they have very little in common. So the parallel is weak. That made the narrative not work for me. If you like subcultures, this is a good movie, but the idea of rap and skateboarding merging temporarily or forming something new was false. Yeah, his whole premise, I believe, was false. There was never any convergence, you know, of rap with skateboarding. They parallel each other. Like I said, you know, the guys, they did meet up at Club Mars and stuff, or play a hangout with both of them, and other artists, I believe. If you probably look, other artists probably hung out there too, like fashion designers and movie people, dancers, whatever, you know, because New York is like that. They have a lot of places like that. You know, people co-opting rap for the soundtracks for whatever their projects doing. Everyone did that. You know, people eventually co-opting skate culture and their visuals. Everyone did that. Rap was not the only, and they only did that briefly. You know, it was not a huge co-optation. It's like kind of here and there. They missed out, like I said, you know, there are, you know, even when you do have rappers who do co-op skate culture, they only talk about briefly, and then skaters who become rappers, there are tons of examples, and they're not talked about at all. You know, and like I said, you know, he did not show there was no actual convergence. Just because some people use a soundtrack or use the culture once or twice doesn't mean anything. And just because he hung out at this club, everyone hung out at this club. So I think he did a very bad job. You know, it was promoted as one thing, but in actuality, it showed two separate subcultures. So yeah, like I said, one thing is the fact that, you know, it looks good. Technically, it was a good film, but as far as the premise, he did not show them merging at all. You know what I'm saying? And then when you have, even with a lot of things, when you see subcultures, artistic cultures merge, they usually at least produce something new. They'll come out with a new genre of something or new product of something. There was nothing new or unique that was produced with skateboarding and rap meeting up in New York in late 80s and 90s. That wasn't shown. So yeah, kind of disappointing. I see why this thing was not known. I do recommend you go get and rent out, or maybe you could probably. I found a version of Kids online. I'm gonna watch that and give a review. So yeah, go watch Kids. It's a great movie. It's kind of harsh if you don't like all the, you know, the violence and the drugs and the sex, and especially showing it of teenagers and stuff, because some people don't like that. It's not for you. But if you just like art, you know, well done stuff that was so done, people mistaked it for a documentary, go ahead. But this documentary, I really can't recommend it and stuff. So, you know, but hey, maybe it's up to you. Maybe just like to watch stuff and da da da. But that's my opinion. I'll be back soon. You know, I got my you know, Richard Wright Reader done. Got other books I'm working on, and I'll get to it and I'll upload it. So I see you then. So later.